Hello Wolfpack, Bitcoin today, and we're looking at kind of what's going to be going on in the market, obviously, as usual. But what I do have to look at today, and what the main thing I'm doing this video on, and the main reason I'm doing this video, I usually have a bit of a topic for every Bitcoin video that I do, and the topic of this video is going to be a longer-term descending wedge formation that we're forming on Bitcoin right now, and what that looks like for Bitcoin if we break it to the upside. Because a lot of people are getting bullish on the market, okay? And, you know, the fear greed index is naturally rising, even though the price is kind of consolidating in the same region. We're seeing, to be honest, not much volume to back that up. Not many people are willing to buy. I mean, look at this move here, but we had a Bitcoin, we had 3 days of upside, and during these 3 days, I mean, the entire move, the volume was just decreasing the whole time. And even on this last green candle, the volume decreased from the last red candle, which shows us that, you know, there's still more sellers than buyers. Will we see a bounce off of this region is the main question that everyone is asking, and everyone is trying to answer. And honestly, I haven't really found a conclusive answer to that question. But what I can say is that we do have this major area of support here at 40k to 43k. And what a bounce would look like from this region, in my personal opinion, is a dead cat bounce up to either 48k or a dead cat bounce up to 53k, and ultimately a longer term head and shoulders pattern. I don't think that the result of this bounce will, you know, bring us to new all-time highs or bring us to new, you know, anything over 53k. I think that 53k is the highest we'll possibly go on the possible bounce that could be incoming. And ultimately, I think that we need to be flipping 53k in order for us to be bullish in the market again. Now, you guys probably know that because a lot of the people who watch my Bitcoin videos are returning viewers, and so I won't go too deep into that. You probably know what I'm talking about. But ultimately, that's where I stand. But as for evidence for a bounce in this region, we do have a little bit of supporting evidence coming in on Bitcoin, and that supporting evidence is coming from some sort of descending wedge formation. I'll try to draw it out as best I can. It's kind of hard to get perfect on these kind of charts here, but I will try to draw it out as best I can. I think it'd be something like that, right? And we have that little wedge formation here. Let me try and fix this up a little bit. Something like that for the top part of the wedge, and then from the bottom part of a wedge, it would be something like this, okay? And you can see that is quite a clear and concise descending wedge formation that's been forming since the middle of October. So it's a long-term descending wedge formation. We've seen these before on Bitcoin, and generally they break to the upside. I mean, descending wedges as a whole generally break to the upside, but specifically on Bitcoin, we've seen these multiple times. But what we're seeing now on this descending wedge formation is a retest of the top side of the wedge, and you can see that the wedge is getting very narrow, and so, you know, could we see another bottom side swing? Sure, but we have to beg the question here. If we see a bottom side swing here, it might actually take us below the 40k major support zone, and that would suggest that, hey, maybe it's not too likely that we see another bottom side swing here from the wedge. Maybe this is where we break out, okay? And if it is, the breakout will take us to, and let's see, and this is the reason why a lot of the people are bullish on the market right now. They're looking at this wedge. It's one of the few bullish charts that remain on Bitcoin. They're looking at this, the breakout. If we break out, let's say we break out in 3 days, the breakout will take us to the doorstep of 53k, which is bearish, guys. It's bearish, right? Because what have I been saying the whole time? I said we need to get above 53k to be bullish in the market. This descending wedge that's been forming for almost 3 months here, 3 months actually, exactly 3 months, has formed in such a way, in such a structure where, yes, it is likely that we will break to the upside, but on the break, we are only targeting 53k, which means, based off of this evidence, the most logical move for Bitcoin is a break to the upside, touching 53k, but rejecting off of it and heading back to the downside. And you would have heard me say earlier in this video, we need to get above 53k to be bullish in the market. We don't need to touch it. Touching it doesn't matter. Anything below that doesn't matter. We need to get above it. And that's very scary for Bitcoin, very detrimental for Bitcoin, because it means that there's no real way out. Myself at least, I'm not seeing a way out. Could it break higher, right? If we break to the upside of this wedge, and people are looking at this wedge a lot, could we break higher than 53k? Of course we could. Of course we could. But that's not what the evidence is suggesting in multiple sections of the technical analysis. And so, you know, for someone to be bullish in the market right now, it would be basically insane, all right? This is what I'm saying. I'm saying wait for 53k. If we break above 53k, start closing above it, go ahead, be bullish. right? But as of right now, even the most bullish chart I can find on Bitcoin is suggesting we will get to 53k, but we will reject off of it, right? Let's measure this to the downside just for a bit of fun here. It's significantly less likely that we actually break to the downside, but it is possible. And I'm not going to be conclusive in anything that I say here because I'm not particularly sure as to where this wedge is going to break. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if it breaks up. I wouldn't be surprised if it breaks down. I'm just outlaying the scenarios here on Bitcoin. Now, what I have said conclusively is from this low 60k to high 58k region, I said, we're going down to 40k and we'll be there in a couple of months. We did that. I was conclusive there. I don't need to be conclusive in every single aspect of my technical analysis. What I can do is outline the scenarios, outline when you should be bullish, outline when you should be selling, buying, etc. Right? I don't see a need to make a prediction, oh, it's going to go up now, it's going to go down now, every single video I make. It's just simply unnecessary because sometimes the evidence just isn't conclusive. What the evidence is conclusive of is that, even if we do see this bounce, it's unlikely we'll break above 53k. Possible, but unlikely. And so if we broke to the downside of this wedge, I just mentioned this out here. Let's say we break to the downside of the wedge let's just say we break to the downside of the wedge in 3 days, just like similar to what we did to the top side of the wedge. We would be taken straight downwards to the 30k, well, not actually 30k, the 28k, the bottom of this green support box on Bitcoin. And so what this suggests is that if we break upwards, we'll reject off of resistance that we need to be breaking to go bullish in the market again. If we break downwards, we'll be taken right back to the major support zone between 28k and 30k. This makes perfect sense. This wedge makes perfect sense in this region, and I would be expecting a breakout of this wedge to the upside or the downside within the next week. All right, because the data lines up perfectly, the extrapolation from the wedge lines up perfectly to each of these support and resistance boxes, and that's usually a sign that it's going to play out either to the downside or the upside quite perfectly. Do I think it's more likely we'll break to the upside? Yes, I do. Do I think it's impossible we'll break to the downside? No, I don't. I think we've probably got a 70% chance of breaking to the upside here on Bitcoin. And out of that 70% chance, I think we've probably got maybe a 10 to 15% chance of breaking 53k. All right, so there is a chance, but it's not a chance I'm betting on, right? It's not worth betting on. So that's what we're looking at on Bitcoin right now. Keep an eye on this wedge, and I'll obviously keep you updated. If we do break out of the wedge, I will make another video today to outline again what is going to be happening and try to look and see where that breakout is taking us. But if we actually go to the hourly chart quickly, what we can see is that this wedge is being tested in real time on the hourly chart. I mean, we rejected off of it here. We've come up and tested it again here. Tested it here. We've been testing this very accurately for it's been going for 3 months, which just shows you, for it to be accurately being tested for 3 months, it's a legitimate wedge that a lot of people are looking at. The range in this wedge is currently between around 43.6 thousand and coming down here to around 38.3 thousand. So we're looking at a $5,000 range, and that's obviously tightening quite quickly. And as for the latest possible time we can break out of this wedge, it's probably going to be within the next week. I mean, the range is just going to get too tight from that point onwards. So that's what we're looking at on Bitcoin. There is a bullish scenario, but even in the bullish scenario, even if we break to the upside, it looks like it might just be a bull trap, a longer term macro bull trap, in which we gather more selling momentum so we can swing down further and break below 40k. Let's see what happens. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.